I'm Michael Houghton, and welcome to Play Practice Play Lesson 6. We're going to be doing playing wide. Alright, so we're going to do our usual warm-up. We're going to follow that with a relay race as a warm-up game. Our play one will be a small-sided game playing in quarters. We'll then do an attacking drill, and then we'll do a small-sided game again playing in quarters, and maybe removing that constraint. Our warm-up, it's our standard warm-up here, so just keep it fun, keep it interactive, and keep it moving. We're then going to split up into a relay race. Basically, we're going to put our team or our group into two different teams or two different groups, with each player standing on a cone. So let's jump over to the explanation for this one. Okay, so this looks a little bit confusing, but there's actually this is obviously for two different teams. So we just set the cones up like this, so they're kind of in triangle formations, and this is the same here. And basically each player stands on a cone, and the idea is that we're just going to do a pass and run exercise. So pass, follow your pass, basically. All right, so the ball would start here, the ball will be passed through to here. This player will then trap the ball and pass it to the player on this cone. This person is then going to run and follow their pass, so they're now going to stand on this cone. And the idea is to move from side to side. So you're moving the ball, you're trying to get some of this width created very early on in this exercise. The ball will continue to come up until it gets to here. This person will then dribble the ball back to here, and then you're going to start again and cycle through. So the idea here is that we're trying to get everybody to get back to the starting, or get back to your starting position. So it's very much a around the world scenario, and it's a competition. So this team is competing with this team, and they're just looking all to pass the ball, pass and move, and get the ball back. So it's really encouraging good, fast, accurate passes with that competitive element. And this should only take 5 or 10 minutes. It doesn't need to be a long warm-up game. If you want to, you can cycle through it twice. If both teams win 1-1, then maybe have one more time so you can decide a winner. I often quite like to do that. Otherwise, if it's 2-0, just leave it at that maybe and move on. And that's it. It's a very, very simple relay race game to get started. Play one then. So we're going to go into a small-sided game. The constraint this week is that we're going to break the pitch up so that it's in quarters, and we're looking to try and encourage width and passes, wide passes, and trying to get our players to move the ball wide. All right. So a lot of the time with hockey, particularly with junior hockey, we find the ball is tried to be passed through the middle. Whereas for me, I'm a little bit of a maybe modern hockey tries to encourage long passes up through the middle, but playing wide is a really attractive way to play hockey, and using that baseline can be quite a nice way to play. And so this lesson plan today is really trying to encourage as much width as we can. So let's jump over and have a look at the setup. Okay, so this looks a little bit confusing. This is really useful if you have drop-down lines available. If you don't, you can still use cones, but you might just have to space the cones out a little bit. But basically, I've got maybe 1/8 of a pitch here. I've put a couple of cones down, goals down, sorry. These could just be cones instead. Otherwise, I've created a drop down for my circles, and then I put drop down lines to kind of cut out the half of the pitch, and then a drop down lines across here as well. And the idea is that we're going to put our teams, we might have, I mentioned there, we might have 4v4. So if we have 4v4, I'm going to put a player from each team, so there'll be 2 players in each quarter from each team, and we're just going to look to get the players staying within their quarters. And so basically they're going to look to try and pass the ball around and through into the quarters, and it should prevent the ball going into the center, because instead of going into the center, so this will be no go, instead of going into the center, the players will have to pass the ball wide. All right, so for example, this pass here, and then maybe this pass here, up a nice wide pass here, back into here. All right, so we're trying to encourage our players to give nice long passes. Our players should be more spread out, so naturally there should be more room for them to make these passes. When they get into the circle, then we're happy for players to come in from all sides. So in this case, player here injects into the circle, then the support player can come in and help them, so they can both work into the circle. So we're still encouraging lots of shots. If we have a goalkeeper, then we've got lots of shots on the goalkeeper still. But the idea is we're trying to get our players to see and utilize the width and understand the width as well. Because in hockey, it's so difficult to get players to actually realize that there's a lot more space on the pitch. And particularly if you're playing a full 11v11 game, There is so much room on that pitch that we need to be encouraging our players to find. All right, so we're going to do that then. So we do that for about 12 and a half minutes, and then we're going to go and see if we can do an attacking drill. So we'll jump over to this. So this is really, really simple, and it can be expanded depending on the age group that you're coaching. So if you're coaching seniors, then this can get really quite comprehensive. Even if you're coaching under eights, it can still be a great exercise to do. Basically, all we do is we have half our players here, and we'll have our balls on this cone. We literally set up with 2 cones here. That's where the players stand, and then you've got some cones down the right-hand side. All right, so you might have your boundary here or something like that. And all we're looking for player A here to do is make a long pass to player B. Player B is then going to dribble the ball around this side of the cones. While player B is dribbling along these cones, player A has made a run to the top of the circle. And then we're just looking for a long pass, wide pass, back to this player. And this player can now ideally just do a one-touch movement into the goal. So basically, they're just going to try and sweep it across in one touch into the goal. Maybe if you're coaching a younger age group, they might stop the ball first before they push it in. But we're really just trying to encourage this attacking down the right-hand side, dribbling down to the baseline, and then passing across. And this is really conventional bread and butter sort of hockey stuff. All right. So we're going to set that up to start with. All right. Maybe they just run through. What we can then do is we can then add a defender. All right. So again, if you have a goalkeeper, this is a great one for goalies because they'll get lots of crosses and trying to stop the crosses. But we can eventually add a defender in here. This might start with, if you're in a younger age group, this might be the coach or one of the coaches to start with, just shadow tackling. But then we can actually start getting the players to defend as well and actually try and take the ball. If you're coaching at an older age group, maybe under 14s, under 16s, or senior hockey, then there's a few options you can do here. You can move these cones to the other side and then attack down the left-hand side as well. The alternative is that you can add a couple of extra cones in just to make it a little bit more exciting. One of the ones that I love is chucking a cone in here, right? So you get some players into here, and this is creating what's called a guard pass. All right, so you've now got the ball coming across here, dribbling down. This player's moved here, this player's moved here, and now you've got this lovely pass back to here, right? This guard pass comes from basketball, but you can get this lovely guard pass back, and then maybe that pass will then come into here. So that's one option. And again, this is only if you have time and more for senior hockey. The second option is that you could set up a cone over this side over here. So maybe in somewhere like here. And now you've got an extra post player coming in. All right, so now you've got extra post players coming in here. So you might have some extra players here. All right, and in this case, you might even add a second defender. So you can really do a 3v2 here, and you've got lots and lots of attacking stuff. But again, using those widths, you've now got a pass that can come across all the way to this post, or the pass can come back to this person on the top of the circle. So lots of options with this. This really could be used. I mean, you could almost spend half an hour on this easily just from this drill alone. So utilize your time as needed, see how your players are taking it, but this is really useful in terms of an attacking drill. We then come back to our play again. So we go back into our quarter pitch game, or sorry, our game of quarters. Again, after maybe 5 minutes or so, you then might want to remove start taking away some of the quarters. So you might start by just taking away some of them so that maybe you've got 2 halves that the players are on, and then eventually you can remove all of the drop downs and they can just play a normal game. And hopefully this time we're trying to encourage the use of width. This has been lesson 6 of 14. Over the next 14 weeks, I will be doing a lesson every week. So please subscribe to keep in touch, and always remember to play, practice, play.